let's do a foot. I'm going to start at the sole of the foot. Remember, we're not making that pretty pink foot yet. That's not even close to where we're at. We're not putting blushy, pretty pink layers on yet. I'm just getting in all of the grooves. And you can actually use a smaller brush for tinier creases, wherever that foot is. And you don't have to get all the creases. Lots of babies have tons of them. And you could waste your whole day trying to do that, but this is what's going to happen. You're going to put that on, you're going to pat it out, and some of the tinier creases that you missed are going to get a little bit of paint. And we're just going to clean the toes here. I don't want to see dirty paint bits in that toe. Sometimes it's inevitable, and you're going to see it, and you're going to hate it, and we're going to add, we can fix that a little bit, but for the most part, just try to keep your creases as clean as you can. Super, super subtle. You're probably saying, doesn't look like you did anything. And I'm reapplying in places where I want it to show up a little bit more. And that's it for creasing that foot. Let's go to the top. And this can be done over and over as you go through the layers of the baby. Sometimes when if you're doing a lot of flesh layers, you'll lose a ton of your creasing. It's there, it's under the surface, it's adding to your baby, but it might not be as strong as you like it. So you'll go through and you'll recrease. I'm going to take the dry brush. I'm going to go inside those creases and I'm going to say, hey, it's okay for you to be there, but it's not okay for you to clump up and look gross. I was watching a video, an older video the other day by Creative Newborns. She's another cool Reborn artist. Her work is beautiful and she's just really sweet and she's super generous with her information. I'm just pushing that paint into those bits and pieces. And then I'm removing and feathering out the edges and making sure I don't have any clumps or any dark lines or any hard lines in there. The back of the knee is a little challenging because it's a tight space to get a sponge in, and the veins are deep. I mean, the creases are deep, and it's easy for it to get messy in there. The cool thing about this creasing paint is you kind of get a little bit of blushing effect, and so it could save you some time down the road. It's kind of a wine, when it's watered down, it's kind of a wine color. It's not bloody, but it's kind of like a wine color. And that is a creased foot and leg. Let me get the top here. Here are some places that are easy to forget because you can barely see them. There are some knee creases here. Let's get those. Those aren't very deep. And you don't want it to look like she has 2 scratches on her knee, so we're going to blend them out really, really well. And right now you're going to have the urge to start pinking up this baby. You're going to go, oh, it's so pretty, it's so pink. If I just make a little circle here and I put a little here, this baby can start to look all pink and rosy. No. Not yet. Take your time. Take your time. We've got more work to do before we get there. There we go. That is a blushed leg for beginners. And honestly, I think it looks kind of cool. And I may go back to using some of that Bountiful Baby blush. And now that it's drying, I can see that there are, on closer inspection, there are some little tiny, what would you call them? It just looks like itty bitty microscopic dots of paint. It doesn't look natural. If you saw that on your body, you would think that maybe you were getting a rash or something, or that you needed to wash your hands. And so when that dried, I kind of saw that. So I'm blending those out a little bit, because later on, the next layers of paint are just going to stick to those and they're going to become more pronounced. So if you have anything that you can fix now, fix it now, because later it just becomes harder. Remember to get in between those little toes. They want paint too. There we go. Voila! Creasing finished. Maybe I should do a hand real fast. Here's a cool hand to work with. It's open. Lots of creasing here that we can do. I'm running out. Let's make a nice little puddle again of this stuff. Where's my little mixie brush? That yucky little dirty brush that I got rid of. Here we go. Let's mix some more of this stuff up. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how I feel about, you know, people making babies that are less expensive. I don't know. A part of me feels like it's devaluing the art, but another part of me feels like it's leveling the playing field for people who may or may not be able to have one of these babies. They really are luxury items. They're not an everyday toy that you would buy a kid for most people. I mean, they're quite out of people's budgets. And I think it's a nice thing to do. And I try to equate it with like artists who do prints. So I think I'll just try to think about it like that. Not sure I'm going to do it, but I just thought I'd mention it since it was on my mind. So with the hand, I'm going to go into the bigger creases. I'm not going to worry about the small creases. So where fingers bend, maybe a couple of these palm lines here and here. We're not blushing yet. We're just getting paint in creases. So don't worry about fanning that out and making that look like a rosy hand. We're not there yet. And this is quite purple. I'm starting to remember why I stopped using this color, and I think it's because it tends to go on a little dark and it tends to clump up in areas, and I'm not liking it. It's a little bit of work, but darn, I mean, you know, once it's put on correctly, it really does look nice. This would be a perfect shading color for an ethnic skin tone baby, definitely. It's a good color for that. And, you know, shout out to all the Reborn artists who went before us who figured all this stuff out. I mean, I was talking to a lady who was reborning in the early 90s, and she was telling me all the things that they used to do. Like they used to put, fish tank pebbles to weight babies because it was clean, and it could be heavy, and it wasn't very expensive. This hand is giving me trouble, and I'm glad it is, because then if you hit this little bump in the road, you'll kind of know what to do. And I wish I could say I've solved the problem, but I haven't. What's happening is some of this paint is really building up in those creases, and it's looking a little dirtier than I like, and it's hard to undo it, but I'm just doing my best. I'm just going back and forth, adding and subtracting until it comes out okay. And I made this paint a little on the thinner side this round. And again, another teaching moment. You can still work with it, but this is why I like it thicker. It's just so drippy and messy. Yuck. Everybody has their preferences. I prefer things to be a little bit on the thicker side. I'm a control freak. I want to tell things what to do and where to go, and I don't like chasing stuff around. Okay, so there we go. We got this a little bit thicker. Now you'll see it's a little thicker. It's not dripping all over the place. Whoo-wee. I'm having deja vu, like when I first started painting and I got very, very frustrated with this color. And again, I mean, it's a great color, but it is not easy to work with. And I do intend on doing other videos where I'll use other colors and you'll get a chance to see that. But for right now, let's use what we have and make it work. Again, just getting that dirty paint buildup out of those creases. I'm trying to rub in the color and remove the excess paint. And I have a little bit of a blue spot here on the inside of the pinky, and that is from the light blue sticking. And since I'm here at this point, I'm going to use this minute to show you how to get rid of that. So, and you'd want to do it as early as you can, because later on you're going to be rubbing off lots of layers. Right now I won't be. I'm getting a toothpick, I'm putting a little paint thinner on, and I'm just moving my toothpick around in a circle gently until that blue comes off. And it's off. It's done. And I'm going to use that same toothpick to get some of this built up paint out of these fingers. There we go. That makes me happier. And let's get that elbow crease real quick. I think this is going a little long. I may have to edit some of this out. Pushing the paint in the crease and moving it out, feathering it out. Pretty easy. You don't want that to look like a line. You want it to just look like there's a bent arm. There we go. And here's a good spot for shading. If you feel this arm, and on a sculpt that you have, it may or may not have it depending on the sculpt, there are these dents. You can't really see them, but you can feel them. And when that happens, this is what I like to do. And it can look bruisey if you don't do it well, but I don't know. I think it's a good opportunity to do some shading. And so I will just go in there and give that a little bit of color. Again, you don't want it to look too bruisey, but just give it a little bit of shading right there. And we have some elbow creases. They're so tiny, but let's honor them. And then never forget this little, I know that you hardly ever see this up here because usually this part is buried in clothes, but there'll be times when this baby is either without clothes or has a short sleeve shirt on. And that little added depth there gives some realism, and it also says I'm paying attention. I'm not just painting this doll to get it done. I care about what's going on here. I'm paying attention to everything. It's the little stuff. Let's see. I feel like I'm rambling this morning, and I haven't even had a cup of tea yet. Can you imagine? There we go.